Our gospel reading for August the 16th comes from Matthew chapter 15, 10 through 28. Now, I leave off the section 12 through 14 because it is an aside that Jesus basically says the Pharisees did complain, but God has a plan for them. So let's get focused back on what it is that defiles us. For he called them together and said, listen and understand, it's not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of the mouth that defiles. And then the disciples approached him and said, do you know that the Pharisees take offense to what you heard? And that's what I leave off, is the offense part. And then Peter said, explain this parable to us. And he said, are you also still without understanding? Do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth enters the stomach and goes into the sewer? But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this is what defiles. For out of the heart comes evil intentions, murder, adultery, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a person. But to eat with unwashed hands does not defile. This deals with kosher law. And when we think about when the kosher law was enacted, it was given to the people during a time of exile. They were a group of people. Some had been slaves, some had been managers, some had found a place in society in Egypt, others not so much. And so you had all walks of life from Egyptian society come together because they're all descended from Abraham. They're all Hebrews, and they're placed as refugees. And then they are to wander in the wilderness, which presents an incredible hygiene challenge. Even refugees today in refugee camps have issues with sewer, with bodily hygiene, with dysentery, things and diseases that can occur because of the lack of cleanliness in close quarters without a city or any organized sewer system to deal with that many people and that much disease and human waste. Kosher laws were put in place to keep the people healthy until they could establish their own cities. And most of the kosher laws and the health hygiene practices initiated by the kosher laws have become foundational to modern society and what we consider as hygienic and disease prevention. But when the kosher laws begin to define whether a person is sinful or not, whether a person is in right relationship or not, then the kosher laws are being applied to the condition of the soul and the spirit rather than the maintenance of a healthy body and a healthy society. And at this point, Jesus says, you're getting them mixed up here. Kosher laws are important because of the health of the body and the health of the society. However, what's more important is the health of the soul, because ultimately this body will die. Ultimately, we will all wither and fade away like grass. But our soul and our relationship with God is important. So how do you know the condition of the soul? How do you know what is your true relationship with God? By your words and actions. What proceed from the heart? What proceeds from the soul? What fruits do you bear? And Jesus says, that's what defiles, because it's an indication of the health of the soul. Just as a cough or a sneeze is an indication of the body trying to expel something that is foreign. So thoughts of adultery or murder or licentiousness or any of the things that Jesus mentioned are indicators that there's something not right in your relationship with God, with yourself, and with others. If you have these thoughts, if you have these desires, what's the root of those thoughts and those desires? Is it stress? Is it the failure of coping mechanism? Well, what if your coping mechanism is God? Then is it a symptom of the fact that you've defined God too narrowly? God is infinite, and yet we walk around as if God's in our back pocket. And then somehow God fails us because God's not big enough. God is always big enough. It's our concept of God that's not big enough. If we need to take justice into our own hands, that is a failure to understand that God's justice is eternal and will be executed according to God's time and God's will. Thank God, because God's the only one that truly knows the heart of both those who are afflicted and those who do the affliction. And it may turn out that those who are being afflicted, well, they might deserve the affliction. And those that are doing the affliction may themselves be acting out of a state of being afflicted themselves. Hard to tell. We try to get at the truth, but only God knows the heart. And it's from the heart that which defiles comes from. So taking grain on a Sabbath or doing these things on the Sabbath does not defile the soul. It may not be the healthiest thing to do if you don't wash your hands and you're eating from the fields, but it's not going to defile your soul or break your relationship with God. Keeping up with this cleanliness and these hygiene procedures, one of the ways that the Jews defined themselves against the Gentiles is they had a hygiene code that they followed, the kosher laws. Gentiles didn't. Therefore, they were always dirty, they were always sick, they were always unclean. Not necessarily spiritually, but physically. And so they were unhealthy. They were considered apart. They weren't good for the society, and they weren't good to mix with. Jesus left the place and went away to the district of Tyre and Sidon, which is way out of kosher territory. Just then, a Canaanite woman from the region came and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is being tormented by a demon." He didn't answer at all. His disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away. She keeps shouting after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I've come to fulfill the promise given to Israel by the prophets. I haven't come to fulfill your promises, any promises God made to y'all, because y'all don't believe them. But I've come to fulfill the promises that God made to the children of Israel." But she came and knelt and said, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs, to take the promises made to Israel when they were suffering at the hands of Gentiles, and then to turn around and give the same salvation to the Jews and the Gentiles, the descendants of those who oppressed Israel." She said, "Yes, Lord. Yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table." Yes, what we did, what our ancestors did, was horrible. But we're still members of the household of God, even if we're the dogs. And Jesus answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done as you wish." Our daughter was healed instantly. It's her faith. It's her faith that saves her. Her faith in God. Not in a promise, not in a covenant, but faith in God, the creator of us all. And that faith is what saves her. She doesn't appeal to the promise. She doesn't appeal to the covenant. She appeals as a creature of God, asking for God to take care of his creation. And that act of faith saves her, which shows in her heart that she believes in the one God, the true God. Her plea reveals to Jesus where her heart and her soul are, and they are fully dependent upon God, coming to God for mercy and compassion. It's not the people she came from or the customs she lived with that defiles or cleanses, but it's what's in the heart that defiles or cleanses.